Okay, so today's Tanya, as always, very special Tanya, but in a way the Alter Rebbe introduces something which is very, very, very simple, but very, very important. And that is that the effective way, because the whole Tanya basically is saying that there's a war. It's a war between two souls. There's a godly soul, which wants godliness and good things. There's an animal soul, which wants basically its own pleasure, like every animal is based on the pain-pleasure system. Then going a little deeper, Hashem gave us the Torah, and the Torah gives us many things that we're meant to do. And the animal soul doesn't necessarily have an interest in doing what the Torah says. It has interest in doing what's comfortable for me, as we see very clearly. In fact, Aristotle says people need to be taught what to do with leisure time. Right? So when societies are desperate, so it's pretty simple. You need to work hard, keeps people out of trouble. When societies get into a prosperous way, this usually historically is the downfall of a society because, the sexual instinct takes over and people have bizarre desires and whatever crazy. Now we have let's not work at all. All interesting ideas are floating around. And these ideas basically are, it's like a teenager that decides his parents don't know what they're doing. So he says, okay, no more parents, I'm going to run the house. So that will run for about a month because, the bills were paid for a month. There's food in the fridge. But after the month, it won't work. And that's exactly what happened in communism and crazy, basically, if you want to call it liberal idea, which, after they took over the country, there was, enough money for a year. And then they forced everyone to start picking cotton so they could sell cotton on the public market so they could have money. Right? So these things are bizarre ideas that really have no reality to them. So the thing is that there's always a tension. It's very interesting if you look in all writings, whether it's religious writings, psychological writings, philosophical writings, all writings will always say the same thing, that there is a tension between the body and the mind, right? The mind has a mind of its own, and the body has a mind of its own. They both have their own desires. Yeah. And the thing is, what makes a human is our ability to control ourselves. And this is what the Alter Rebbe is saying. It's a very, very fascinating point because we know that the Yetzer Hara, one of the reasons that people feel guilty is not necessarily, ironically, their own guilt. The Yetzer Hara is in our mind. And the Yetzer Hara, as the Baal Shem Tov says, more than the Yetzer Hara wants you to sin, he wants you to feel guilty that you sinned. So guilt is not a Jewish thing, right? There was a conversation between a rabbi and
Every Jewish comedian made a living on that.
There's a comedian. There was a rabbi and a priest talking. The rabbi says to the priest, I feel really guilty. I wasn't so nice to my congregant today. The priest says, Rabbi, you're a very lucky man. I was born into guilt. so like guilt, the whole Catholic Church is in a way. I don't know much about it. It was all about guilt, right? Yeah. And so, they run a whole religion based on guilt. Yeah, and this in a way,
get the money.
And this in a way is the idea. Again, we're not trying to criticize. I don't know that much, but we're just saying this in a way is how the evil actually operates. If you think about it. Like somebody was telling me, the UN doesn't have any power. The only thing they can do is shame you. And if you leave, and this is really the problem that Israel has had, if you accept the shame, then you got a problem. But if you realize that the shame is coming just from somebody that doesn't have a point, if they have a point, like there was a story once that Einstein, he developed a nuclear bomb. He was very concerned. He says, I don't know what World War III will be fought with, but World War IV with sticks and stones. So he was very concerned about he said actually a very interesting thing towards the end of his life, and he realized that it's not really the bomb that detonates, but the heart that makes it detonate. He says, better had I become a watchmaker. So, and we're dealing with this right now. You've got evil terrorist regimes, it's a big, maybe even what's going on behind the scenes, the whole idea of Iran. Make a long story short, the idea is that the Yetzer Hara uses guilt. And a person, the Alter Rebbe is telling us, this is Olam HaAsiyah, a world of action. What matters is not how much you wanted, how much you didn't want. What matters here in this world is what extent are you actively doing the right thing or not? That's what matters. It doesn't matter so much what your desires are. In fact, as we know that if you have negative desires, you overcome that, that is very holy. What matters in this world is action. And so this is what the Alter Rebbe is telling us, and it's really in a way the fundamental, simple core message of Tanya, which is daven. And when you daven, you are going to inspire your heart to love of Hashem. And that is a motive, that is a direction. And then you still have to use your mind to control your behavior. We all have that. It's very simple. Let's say we all know we should eat healthy food, right? Again, you have a mind-body battle. So whenever it comes down to the actual eating of the food, your body's going to say, I want the food. And your mind has to say no. So you always need two things. You need a motive, and you need self-discipline, however you cut it. L'chaim v'levracha.